We're back with more Madden 22 news. Now it's July 19th, so as most of you know if you've been up to date with my channel, today is the day that EA talked about the new scouting overhaul for Madden 22. We'd only found out a little bit about it so far, but today they went a lot more in depth when they did a live stream over on their YouTube channel just a little bit ago. Now we're going to break all of that down, but really quickly, if you are new to the channel and you don't want to miss out on any of the other upcoming Madden 22 news like Ratings Week next week, the upcoming gameplay that's going to be releasing, if you don't want to miss out on that, make sure you subscribe, turn the bell icon on so you don't miss any of those videos when they go live. You know, more than half of you that watch the videos actually aren't subscribed, so you could be missing out on some of these important videos and you wouldn't even know it. So let's talk about the new scouting system for Madden 22. Now it is coming in a post-launch update. It's coming out in September, so could really be anywhere from about 2 to 4 weeks after the game is released. It's going to be the first big update of the year, so it is coming early in the year, but it's not going to be in fresh out of the box at launch. And today when they did the live stream, they went a little bit more in depth and actually talked about some of the nuance of the mode and kind of more of the strategy that goes in to the new scouting system, which is what a lot of people have been wanting, because the old system was kind of more of like just something on the to-do list that didn't actually make much of a difference. It was just doing scouting for the sake of doing scouting that didn't really provide much strategy. But this new system overall is going to provide a ton of different layers of strategy mixed within your franchise mode. Now they didn't show any new images that we haven't already seen or any gameplay of the scouting system because it's not ready to show yet. If it was ready to show, then it would be in the game at launch and it wouldn't be an update, but they did tell us pretty much everything we needed to know about it. But they left a few things uncovered that they said they wanted us to just kind of uncover for ourselves when we play it. So the first thing you need to know is there's no more scouting point system that we've known in the past, where you get about 175 or so points each week. Each player costs a certain amount of points to completely scout, to kind of find out everything you need to know about them. And every week you just go in, you hit 3 buttons on each player you want to scout. You can scout so many players each week, and that was about the gist of it. It was just doing work for the sake of doing work. You didn't really find out too much about the players, and none of it really mattered. Now instead, what you're going to do to start out at the beginning of your franchise or the beginning of each season is you're going to have 4 area scouts and you're going to have 1 national scout that you need to hire, and they're going to all have different strengths and weaknesses. Some could be, you know, player specific or other things like that. So based on what you're going to be looking to scout in that season might determine which scouts you bring on for that season. If it's a year where you're looking to really scout wide receivers heavy, where you're going to definitely want to make sure that one of your scouts specializes in wide receivers, because you want to make sure that you nail that pick so you can bolster your receiving core. Now we're going to dive into all of the other new things you need to know about, but really quick, let's hear a word from today's video sponsor. Big shout out to Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring today's video. Now I know a lot of you love building teams on Madden. Well, if you love that, then you're going to love building teams on Underdog. Absolutely no one makes it easier and no one has bigger prizes. It's super simple. You literally just draft a team and that's it. They manage it for you. You don't have to deal with waivers, injury concerns, nothing like that at all. They'll start your best possible team for you every week. Now this lets you draft as many teams as you want without having to worry about all of the extra work. Now everybody knows the most fun about fantasy is drafting. Heck, I get in multiple leagues every year just so I can do different drafts. Well, now with Underdog Fantasy, you could do that as much as you want. Now the best part about this is if you draft a winning team, you can actually walk away with over $1 million in cash. Underdog Fantasy has over 3.5 million up for grabs in their fantasy tournament, and all you have to do is simply draft a team. It's tons of fun that'll last the entire season on a super clean and easy to use app. So head on over to UnderdogFantasy.com or download their mobile app, and when you deposit, they're going to give you $25 right off the bat. That's right, just deposit now and you're getting a free shot at $1 million prize. And they're so confident that you'll love it that if you don't, they'll give you your money back if you're not satisfied. So give it a shot. You literally have nothing to lose. Use promo code ERIC25 when you sign up, or use the link in the description. You'll assign your area scouts to 1 of 4 different regions at the start of each season. Now your national scout is going to be your best, and it will unlock the most information about prospects. So your regional scouts, from what I gathered, are going to be more than likely will be the ones that are more kind of position focused, or they're just going to be very specifically focused in a certain area. So like I said, if you need a wide receiver and there's a certain region that year that's going to have more wide receiver talents than the other, then you would probably want to send that guy to that region, and you're going to find out a good amount about the wide receivers. But your national scout, where you send him out to specifically, is going to give you much more information about the players you're scouting. But the kind of other strategy thing here is when you use your national scout, it kind of comes at a bit of a cost. So the media actually is going to be playing a big role in scouting in the new overhaul, which is much like they do in real life. The media kind of drives a lot of the mock drafts and the big boards and where players are projected to go. So if they know that you're sending your national scout out to scout a certain player, the media gets wind of this and they say, hey, there must be something about this player if this team is sending their national scout out to go sit front row and watch this guy. So they mentioned specifically how it's going to be a little bit harder to get maybe a steal in the draft, because if you find a guy that you're like, hey, this guy is kind of under the radar, he's projected to go in the 6th round, but I'm kind of seeing something here and I'm sending my scouts out to go watch this guy, the media is going to get wind of that, and now he's going to move up the draft board because they're going to say, well, wait a minute, if they're sending their scout to watch this guy, then maybe that's something we need to be looking into as well. So it's going to be a little bit harder to kind of find some of those sleeper guys because everybody's going to be focused on what's going on. However, they did mention private workouts being a thing where you can bring in a certain amount of players to do private workouts, so that you can maybe keep a little bit more under the radar, just depending. But they talk about mock drafts and how they're aiming to have about 5 different mock drafts over the course of a season. So you're going to be able to see players move up and down based on how they're performing in real life. Like if they go on a string of like having a bunch of good games in college, they're going to get media attention. They're going to start going up the draft board. If they see that a lot of teams are sending scouts out to this guy or to this region to watch a certain group of guys, those guys are going to move up the draft board. And then the guys that aren't being looked at as much, or the guys that are going on cold stretches, you're going to see them move down the mock draft boards. And this is going to update, like I said, about 5 times throughout the season. So you're going to kind of always have the latest info about who's going where, and it's going to make you key in more on what you need to do in your draft, because you're going to have all this information because of how the media is tied into it. And this works for both the offline franchise if you're playing by yourself or the online CFM. So if you see the team and they've been scouting a certain position group or just a certain player in general very heavily, much like in real life, when you know, hey, this team has kind of been linked to this player, they're more than likely going to take this player, then that lets you know that, hey, I need to jump up ahead of this guy. I need to try to trade up ahead of this team. Or if you're in an online CFM, I got to trade up against this user because the media is linking him to taking this position or this player even specifically. So I need to do what I have to do if that's also my player. But if you're in an online CFM, you can also use this to kind of throw people off. If you're trying to throw off a guy that's behind you that you know might need a quarterback, maybe you don't scout the quarterbacks as heavily, you kind of have an idea who you want and you go scout some other positions, and maybe that makes the guy behind you think, well, I don't really need to move up because he's not focused too crazy on any of the QBs, but maybe you really are. So in an online CFM, you can kind of play into the strategy a little bit more that way. But for offline purposes, you're kind of going to have all of the information surfaced to you, what your CPU teams are going out and scouting, and they're going to know who you're going out and scouting. Now, there's going to be ranges for different prospects this year, so you're going to have kind of like a top 5, and then you have like a 6 to 22 talent and things like that. So, and as you get deeper into the draft, the talent ranges are going to spread a little bit more. So you're going to have your blue chip guys. They said you got your kind of locked in top 5 or top 10 guys that you kind of know most of these guys are going to go in that top 5 to top 10. And after that, you're going to have different ranges of, like, you know, instead of the old system, it would just be early first round, late first round, early second round, late second round, you know, things like that. It's going to be more of like, okay, this guy could go kind of in the 6 to 22 range. This guy could go from pick 23, you know, kind of to pick 50 or something like that. So you kind of have more of a range, which is a little bit more realistic in real life, because we've seen some players get reached for and go like 20 spots ahead of where they maybe were projected, or go, you know, in a late first round when they were projected more of like a mid to late second round. We've seen that happen. So outside of those top guys, there's a lot of guys that can kind of move around within a range. So I think that makes it a little bit better to deliver it that way. So if you got a guy that's in the 6 to 22 range, however, you might be at pick 20, but you know that, hey, this guy could kind of go up until that top 6 or in that top 10. So it might change how you look at the draft and how you might want to move up based on the range that a specific specific player you want is given. And another good thing about this is they set the new scouting system up in a way to where if you are a more casual player and you don't want to dive as deep into it, it can kind of serve as an autopilot type deal for you, where you might have to go in a couple times at the beginning of the season, do a few things, but you don't have to really monitor it week to week like a more hardcore player would. So if you choose to not interact with the scouting as much, you just don't have to. You don't really lose power, but you do lose some of the control. You lose some of the extra info that you would get if you were interacting with it more. Now, they also talked about more post-launch updates for franchise are coming this year. They didn't mention specifically what they're going to do post-launch. All we know is scouting is the first big one, but they said there will be multiple post-launch updates just like last year with Madden 21, and they want to make this a regular thing where they can update the smaller things in between the year so that you don't have to wait till the whole next year's game to get things. Now, they did mention kind of briefly, they teased that they're looking at stuff with trades and free agency, so maybe potentially adding more trade slots, which is something that people have asked for. Maybe adding, you know, a different free agency system, because the one that's in the game now, people have kind of wanted a little bit of an update to that, a better free agent signing system. So they could be messing with stuff like that. They didn't confirm it, but they kind of teased it and said that, like, it's stuff that they're looking at. But their main thing is, even after this, they're going to continue updating Madden franchise every year during the year, which I think is a good thing, because why wait till the entire next year if you can continue getting that stuff in the months following the release, so that when the actual next game does come out, you have a whole set of new things you're doing for that game, because you were able to put some of those little things in during the year instead of waiting till the entire next cycle to put that stuff in. So I think that's a good thing. But the scouting overhaul does sound like it's going to be a lot more in depth, a lot more strategy this year, and definitely more of what people have been asking for. But it is coming in September, so if you were a franchise guy, you might want to wait till September to buy the game if this is a big feature for you, because you will have to restart your franchise to implement the scouting overhaul. So just something to think about. But that's all for today. Hope you enjoyed this video. I will see you guys next time.